Well, I said my name is Susan Shaer, and the reason that I am on this panel is that I am, like you, an activist. And my organization is, like you, full of individuals who want to make change and feel like this is their time has come and this is our opportunity. And as you can see in the bio, that my organization's name is Women's Action for New Directions. You can see it up there on the board, on the PowerPoint. And it used to be Women's Action for Nuclear Disarmament. But we changed our name to New Directions when the Cold War was over, and we were going to spend the peace dividend. Now, there's several words that we have changed in our language over the years, and one of them is peace dividend, because new generations don't know what a dividend is. And they don't know what the Cold War was. And we used to say America's checkbook when we were talking about the Pentagon budget, but now we've started calling it the ATM machine because nobody has checkbooks. And the reason I bring this up is that I'm really here today to talk to you a little bit about framing. And I'm glad that Barney brought up a lot of the facts and the kinds of defenses that we need to get rid of, and the overspending and some of the problems in Congress on doing this. And one of those issues is jobs, and you're going to hear from Professor Collin on that. But for all of us who are progressives, when we go out to talk to our friends, and we should be, and people we are parties with, our neighbors, and our family, and then, yes, to your member of Congress, it's not about shaking our finger at them and telling them you must do this because this is where the money is and you need it. But it's about framing the issue and telling your story. And your story, I think everyone in the room has a weapon that they love to hate. You know, whether it's the F-22, as Barney mentioned, the National Defense, the famous Star Wars. I'm going to show you a list of them in a minute. But we need to talk about how that affects us at home when we talk to our members of Congress and when we talk to our families and friends. And one of the things that we do in framing that is tell people about our values. And now I'm starting to do this. Which button do I push? Down, up, down, and up. Okay. So the first thing is to know how much money we actually do spend. And this is what the new budget looks like, roughly. And don't look at all the little numbers. Just look at the fact that it's bigger than half of the pie. So if you're talking to your friends, or you can go to a member of Congress, and I will bet you dollars to donuts, they don't know how much money is actually in the Pentagon budget. So if you want to compare it to your own household budget, you might say, I at home do not spend more than half of my budget on an Uzi on the roof and attack dogs and a burglar alarm system and a tank in the front lawn. That would be silly. But yes, I need to be strong and tough. And then you would say, this is what I value in my own budget, and this is what I want you to value in the budget that we have, that we show to the rest of the world. Now, these are some of the things we're not paying for that Barney also mentioned: infrastructure, schools. This actually was done in Indiana, where they were giving food to a food bank, because in every state in the union we have food banks. These are people who are out of work, these are homeless people, and these are our state budgets, which all of us know now are under attack. And so all of those things we do know are our values, and as Barney said, we also share kind of this mentality that we shouldn't be overspending money. Everyone has heard how we started this millennium with money in the bank, and now that we're in a deficit, we all know that, and we have learned through this recession that banks are not necessarily the place to put the money, but certainly being in a huge deficit is not. And we're not supposed to be using our credit cards too much or going to the ATM too much, so why is the government doing that? So when you go back to the pie, and again you say to your friends and family, just close your eyes for a minute and imagine this pile of money in Washington, and that more than half of it is being handed over to these military-industrial complex people. And do we need it? Okay, so this is how we compare to the rest of the world in our spending. The United States is that big side, and those are the rest of the countries in the world and what they spend. So you compare the two pies, and why do we have to spend so much money when we're already outspending everyone else in the world combined? Do we have that many enemies? Do the weapons we have, as Barney said, are they fighting the enemies that we do have? So now we look at the values of the administration, and as you go to talk to your friends and family, everyone's going to say, and you've heard this in the conference all over the place, do we speak against Obama or not? Do we know what we're supposed to say? Are we supposed to be on his side or not? It's not about being on his side. It's about being a partner so we can push him. And it's about using his words to keep him strong. Now, these are Secretary Gates' words. But he said, it's important to remember that every defense dollar spent to over-insure against a remote or diminishing risk is a dollar not available to take care of our people, reset the force, which is our military, win the wars we are already in, and improve capabilities in areas where we are underinvested and potentially vulnerable. That is a risk I will not take. So we can remind our members of Congress, we can remind the administration that people at home, our domestic needs are just as important as our defense needs, because to be secure at home is also important. Barney mentioned next year and the 2010 elections. Every member of Congress is worried more about that than they are about getting rid of the Gates cuts that he's mentioned. Every member of Congress is more worried about looking soft on defense than he is on anything else there is. But if you talk to them about values, those values are the same values that people in their district represent, and so does Robert Gates say that. Now, I'm going to jump ahead to what our president has said. These are some of the wonderful... Our normal presentation has lots of wonderful things about all these things that we love to hate. My favorite one, national missile defense. That little snake says terrorist coming in the back door. My favorite, expeditionary fighting vehicle, future combat systems, that's the drones. And then this is a quote from him too. Oh, Barney Frank. It ought to be a requirement of spending all this money for a weapon that there should be some need for it. Barney always says it right. We love, I always have to throw the aspirin in because it's the one that doesn't work. And it's on the cover of Time magazine, and members of Congress still don't know they're spending money on it. Then there's nuclear weapons. We don't need them, and now we have a president who agrees. But this is also a piece of pie that you can show to people before we get to what the president has said about this entire budget. And that is that out of the Pentagon budget, 87% is spent on military, and preventive procedures 25%, and Homeland Security only 8%. When we want to feel secure, most of us would say, and you can tell your member of Congress that we're more interested in diplomacy and not going to war than to having to use the military, as Barney was explaining. We have the military on retainer, and then we start paying them when they go to war. So this finally is a quote that was authorized by the president, and which your guest who actually said it. Funding for non-military foreign affairs programs remains disproportionately small relative to what we spend on the military. Consider that this year's budget for the Department of Defense is nearly $500 billion. $500 billion. We used to talk about billions, now it's billions. And the total foreign affairs budget request for the State Department is only $36 billion. There is a need for a dramatic increase in spending on the civilian instruments of national security. And that was said by Secretary of Defense Robert Gates. So when you talk and you frame this issue for your friends and family and for your member of Congress, and when you're talking about the facts, start with the framing first. Start with your values, start with the story. And remember that the president started his administration by saying, so often we have come to view these documents as simply numbers on a page for laundry lists of programs. I see this document differently. I see it as a vision for America and as a blueprint for the future. So if he believes in that, we can believe in that, and then we can actually be successful.